Jak and Daxter, yet another classic PlayStation franchise.
Indeed, Jak and Daxter is definitely a classic, but we're not exactly here to talk about that. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Chaff, and this is how you don't play retrospective. This is something that I've been meaning to do for a long time. It's definitely overdue. So I've been, making these montages for 4 years now, and I figured I would take a look back at all of this. So the reason why I'm doing this is because, well, I guess for one thing, it's an unexpected 8,000 subscriber special. Surprise! But really, I had planned this out in advance, and I tried to do a few takes in the past, but I could never really get all of my thoughts down properly, so over the past week or so, I've been taking a few notes, kind of outlining what I want to go over, and I'm hoping this works out well. So I just wanted to, give a bit more of a detailed history with my experience with Darksideville, and take a look back at my 4 years of montages that I've made, take a look at the editing process that I use, how I've improved it over time, and how it's kind of affected the growth of my channel, and gonna talk about my eventual end of making montages. So let's just get right into it. Now, I first discovered DSP around, well, I don't know the exact date, but I know it was 2009. Because I had discovered him from gameplay of the demo of Infamous on the PS3. I had downloaded the demo myself around that time, and I played it. I liked it, and for some reason I felt the need to look up gameplay for it, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't even into Let's Plays at that time, but I guess around the time that I was looking into it, I was kinda slowly getting into it, I guess. I just contradicted myself, but whatever. At that time, I was mostly into YouTube poops and all that kind of stuff. But Let's Plays, I first got into channels like KCS, Scottish Duck, Vash, Hellfire Comms, Nintendo Capri Sun, stuff like that. But yeah, he was, one of the first. And at that time, not a lot of other Let's Players, that I know of were uploading videos in high definition. Now, of course, his idea of high definition is obviously, porting an HD camcorder at the screen, like you see here, and just hitting record and then pressing stop. Which, at the time, it was a novel idea. Obviously, it hasn't aged well. And honestly, if I had better standards back then, I probably would have said that it didn't hold up at that time either, But I guess I was just kind of spoiled by the idea of, oh man, HD gameplay on YouTube? Whoa, everyone else was our 480p, and it still looked kind of blocky and stuff, whatever. And, I don't know, like, it obviously doesn't look all that great. You can tell because it's got this, like, motion blur, I guess because it's trying to record the frames from the TV and all that stuff, and it can't keep up with it, I guess. But honestly, it could be a lot worse, I don't know. It's alright. I've seen better. His humor back then, it was, well, it always has been kind of lowbrow. A lot of pop culture references, random singing, toilet humor, maybe the occasional good pun or a bit of wordplay, but for the most part, he's kind of bottom of the barrel. But not that you're scraping it off the barrel, but it's just the stuff at the bottom that you don't want to get, for lack of a better description. But at least around that time, I think that despite it being really hit or miss, it felt a bit more genuine because he wasn't really playing to an audience. Even though he was, in a way, because he's still talking to us, the viewers. But he wasn't literally talking to a stream chat to a Twitch audience or a YouTube streaming audience. It's just talking to himself, really, you know? Like, literally talking to himself. But, I think at that time, that made him feel a bit more real. And I guess that's what made him think, oh, I'm the realest person on YouTube because I give you the real, you know, real live commentary and not scripted events, even though literally none of the LPs that I watch have scripts. Maybe notes at best, but like there's no actual scripts. I don't know where he gets that idea from, but you know, that's that. And I think by now we all know how his gameplay is. His play skill is pretty below average. At first, it didn't really bother me at the time. Again, maybe I had just lower standards. I hadn't watched enough Let's Players to really get an idea of if you're going to be putting gameplay out on YouTube, maybe you should be playing at a certain skill level. Not that you need to be a speedrunner or a top level, you know, fighting game player or something like that, but, you know, if you're going to show off a game, might as well show it off a little bit, you know what I mean? You know, make it look good, but that's just me. So yeah, it didn't really bother me at first. It got a little bit grating over time, you know, the rage always stands out, but for whatever reason, I would just always stick it out till the end of the Let's Play. I don't know why, I would just sit there and watch it. Who knows? But, you know, I was there for quite a couple years. I was there for, what, 2009 to 2011. Well, maybe 2010, I guess. About a year and a half, I guess, but, you know, people talk about how, you know, popular his Heavy Rain LP was. I was there when he started it. Like, I remember him doing all those trials with Ethan and all that stuff. I remember all those moments. I remember him doing the alternate choices with John Rambo. And I know later on he did, what's the other game? Fahrenheit. Not Fahrenheit. You know, same game, but, yeah. Indigo Prophecy. Yeah, Indigo Prophecy. I watched that one too. And, you know, it was, I don't know, it was just fun. There was just something about a game like that where there isn't a lot of gameplay, well, mostly QTEs and just story-based stuff. That seems to be when he's at his quote-unquote best, because since there isn't a lot of input that he needs to put in, he can just sit back, have a few laughs, crack a few jokes, and then really get into the story of the game and the premise and all that stuff. So I guess that's, I don't know, that's him at his best. But I also know, I remember when Ghost Drone 110 did all those remixes. I watched all of those. Like, I watched all the Thugs on the Floor remixes. I Spawn, I Die, The Rain is Very Heavy, you know, Going Back in Time, Who Let the Souls Out, all that stuff. I love those. Those were great. I don't know why that guy stopped making stuff, but what can you do? Nothing I can do. But I guess another thing that really made his early stuff good was the fact that he put out videos quick. And I know that back then you could only record like 10-minute videos unless you were one of those people who were smart enough to make a director account back in the day. But, you know, you had 10 minutes, maybe 15. I think it went up to 15 around that time. So just record a little bit, stop, record, and he would record in bulk, but he uploaded in bulk. So he could just like spam your, you know, subscription box with tons of stuff all at once. And back then, the sub box was, well, I don't know if it's all that different from what it is today, but it is. Like, it used to show, I think it used to show like 8 videos at a time, and then you could like X out a video in the list and it would load up the next one. And there would be days where I would load up my subscriptions and I would just see like Dark Side Field, Dark Side Field, Dark Side Field over and over and over and over and over. And it's like, oh man, you know, I can't keep digging through all of his stuff to find content from the other people that I'm subscribed to. That's going to get a little annoying. So really, that was the thing that led to me unsubscribing. not so much his gameplay or his attitude and all that stuff. It was really just the spam. And again, like, he would always put stuff out quickly. He was always playing the newest games. And sure, it's up to the viewer to choose to keep pace with the uploads or just have a big backlog of stuff to watch for later. But just the fact that he would upload so much of it at once, like, that's, you know, you could upload maybe 2 videos or 3 a day and just have a whole backlog ready to upload, and just upload it, you know, in fewer parts per day. That way it would be a bit more sustainable, I guess, but yeah, what do I know? So yeah, even after I unsubscribed, I still kinda watched him every now and then, just to see what he was up to. Like, I clearly remember when I sat down and watched his entire Mass Effect 2 playthrough. I don't know why, I guess because I had played it myself on PS3 recently, around that time. And I thought, oh man, this is fun, I want to see how he handles it. And, you know, he had his ups and downs, but I did watch the whole thing, so I can't really complain, can I? But, you know, it is what it is. It was okay. Could have been worse. But, okay, so around that time, while I was getting into Let's Plays, I had also gotten into Retrospective, and, you know, around 2009 and stuff, that was like slow beef at the height of being like angry slow beef, you know what I mean? Because now he's all mellowed out, he's a lot more calm and stuff, but back then he used to tear LPers apart. It was hilarious, and I was secretly hoping, really hoping that one day he would get Retrospective, and he did. I know Chip Cheesem and Slow Beef did that video on MGS2, and I remember seeing a comment saying that Phil wanted the video taken down because, oh, you can't use my videos without permission and yada 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 and all that stuff, and they took it down, but it's been re-uploaded. But that was like, what, 2012, 2011, I think, when that video went up at first? I don't know. But when I first saw that, that had me cracking up, because I knew, like, of all the bad LPers out there, sooner or later, he would get, you know, the Retrospective treatment as well. So, that was something. But then, I guess, over time, I kind of just forgot about him. I got into other Let's Players, YouTube poops, and just other content altogether. I honestly do not know how I ever discovered This Is How You Don't Play. I don't know if someone recommended it to me. I don't know if it was a comment on the video that Chip Cheesem did on MGS2. There might have been a comment on there referencing it, and I found it through there. I have no idea. But when I first saw This Is How You Don't Play MGS2, I was like, oh my god. Like, wow. I don't know, I mean, I've seen some compilations before, but I never really watched a lot of really lengthy, you know, feature-length videos before myself. And just to see something like this from a content creator that I remember watching back in the day, that really surprised me. And then, you know, later on I watched the MGS3 video, and that was the one. Like, you know, MGS2 was one thing, but just, oh my god, the way he fought the end and the Fury and the boss, oh my god. Like, that's, you know, that's the kind of stuff that wanted to really get me into it. So I figured, you know, at some point, maybe I could give it a shot. You know, why not? And I'll be honest, I admittedly figured I might get a bit of popularity from it, which I'm not really ashamed of, as, I mean, you want to make something to get noticed, right? When you put something out for people to see, you want people to see it. That's kind of the point, you know? Like, obviously. And, you know, I kind of wanted to one-up AJ. I wanted to see if I could make a better montage than he could. You know, just to kind of improve on his execution. Because I remember when AJ was on a SoCast, and he hated hearing comments about this, where people always complained about the way he overlaid the comments on screen because they had those big black bars on the top and bottom, but he couldn't do anything about that because of the program that he was using to edit the footage. So, you know, nothing you can do about that. So yeah, I just wanted to, you know, do better than him. And I apply that kind of mindset to pretty much anything that I do. If I see a video on YouTube that's something similar to what I would do, like if it was a Let's Play of a game that I like, you know, I watch it, I see how they edit it, how they comment over it. I would probably, you know, ask about how they render it, what, you know, program do they use, what settings do they use, what, you know, capture card do they use. That's how I improve as a content creator. I see what people are doing, do something similar, improve on it, adapt, you know, I just keep evolving. That's kind of how I do my content in general. And I knew I had some ideas of Let's Plays that I wanted to make montages from, but I wasn't really sure which ones to do just yet. But there were a few things that kind of really cemented the idea of me wanting to do them the way I do them. So, you know, later on, I discovered Sebastopol Queen's Dark Souls death montage. Now, not the actual "this is how you don't play," but it was like a separate death montage, and that was a big inspiration to me because of the very straight to the point editing style, where you focus on just the deaths. You know, something happens, he gets killed, he rages, you know, on to the next one, and over and over and over without any real downtime. Because again, I liked AJ's montages, but there were certain parts of it that could have been shortened. Like, you know, when Phil was fighting the end, and there's a lot of downtime where Snake is just kind of sneaking around, trying to find them, and it's just a lot of dead space. So I kind of wanted to avoid that when I ever got into making my own montages. But the thing that definitely 100% made me want to do Jak and Daxter was when Magnew9991 was doing those bugged mechanics videos where, you know, he did the good idea, bad idea thing. That was what got me, because when I watched him fight the Claw boss fight in this game, the way he just, like, I mean, sure, I struggled on that fight as a kid, but not like that, you know? It was just, like, I can't even explain how bad it was to watch at that time. So I was just like, alright, that's it, let's do it. Jak and Daxter, we're going for it. Alright, so here I was, getting all pumped and primed to make a montage, and then I realized, wait a minute, I have no idea what I'm doing. Because I had very little experience with any kind of proper editing program at that time. Up until that point, I had only used like random freeware programs that I can't even name because I haven't used them forever. I've been using Vegas like since, well, 2011, I guess, and even to this day, I would consider myself to be a novice. I don't really know all that much about it. Even with everything that I've done in the past few years, I would say I've barely made use of even a third of the functions and features of Vegas. But it does what it needs to do, so no complaints. Also, I had never done anything like this before. I've never worked with, you know, editing an entire playthrough of someone else's and trying to, you know, cutting it down like this. Because it's a lot different than doing your own footage, because you already have an idea of what you're going to do with it, because you need to edit it a certain way to get it ready to go. But you know, you've got, like, I think there were like maybe, what, 30-something parts to this playthrough? I don't remember, but I don't know. So, anyway, first thing I did was to download all videos at once. Just get the whole playlist. And I was smart. I knew what I was going to do, so I just went to the playlist page of the playthrough, and I would copy the URLs and then move them to use various video downloading sites. Because I know that there are people who are already making the, oh, you're making these montages, you're giving him views by watching them. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm copying them from a playlist. And I would copy all the videos, I would save them to my iPod, I would use it as like a makeshift, you know, external hard drive, and then bring them back home to my laptop. Because at that time, I was still in college, so I was working back and forth between school and home. Because obviously campus had way better computers and internet than me, so getting the videos downloaded only took like a minute or two, you know, per video. So that was a lifesaver, because I only had a very low quality Wi-Fi signal from like a business computer room in my leasing office at my apartment, and I was just like, that's not gonna do. And I went through like so many different downloading sites, because a lot of them seem to have been blocked by the school. Like, I went through File2 HD, Clip Converter, SaveDeo, KeepVid, all that stuff. Like, you name it, I've probably used it at least once, or at least, you know, seen it in search results. But I found stuff that worked, and I just kind of stuck with it. So I'm just thinking to myself, I've got all these videos here. Now I have to single out all of these fails and deaths. And, you know, how am I going to do that? I don't want to sit here and watch the entire playthrough just to find the bits of footage that I need. So, for the first video or two, I kind of had to do that. I kind of had to sit and kind of skim through it very slowly, I guess. And what I began to notice was whenever he yelled or was raging or whatever it was, I would see a huge spike in the audio track in the little waveform, and I figured, oh, maybe, you know, maybe that's a point where he's getting upset. I'll cut that part out. And it's way easier to notice things like that in the older LPs with the camcorder, because the quality audio is so shit that you can tell that, I don't know, it's just something about, I don't know, I'm no audiophile, I don't know how that stuff works, but I just know that it's easier to do it with this footage. But anyway, so okay, I was like, okay, I'll use this here. You know, you got this spike, I'll use this part of the video. And I kind of began to do that over and over, and over the course of making this montage, I kind of ended up with a thing where I would have, okay, every, you know, fail sequence, I would always have the lead up to the fail itself, whatever rants he might do, and then move to the next thing. And just do that over and over and over again. Because first of all, you know, that's what you want to know. You want to see him raging, but you want to know what it is and why he's raging at it. So I would always make sure to show he's going to be in this area, he's fighting this boss, he's doing this thing, you know what I mean? And to me, that seems to be like the ideal counter to the whole taking it out of context argument, because in a way, sure, it is out of the context of the complete video, but the events that are taking place are still intact. I'm not like splicing audio together or doing any kind of really fancy edits. I'm just, it's a compilation. It's no different than watching a montage of Rick's birth from you know, Rick and Morty. You know, it doesn't make it any less, I don't know. That's a dumb argument. I don't know why that's even a thing. And then I would want to keep these organized, so for every part, like every video part, I would place a marker on the timeline by pressing M, and then I would name it part 1, then have the edits for part 1, put another marker, part 2, then keep doing that. Now, if I didn't use like the second part of an LP, then I would just delete that footage and rename that marker to part 3, and then I would just keep doing that for the rest of the montage. Now, overlaying comments was probably the first like confusing thing that I had to deal with, because I didn't know how to place an image, you know, on top of a video at the time. So I would just like import an image and put it on there, and I'm like, how the fuck do you scale this thing down? How do you move it? What am I doing, you know? But getting the comments was pretty easy, because what I would do, again, to avoid giving videos free views, I would go to the playlist, copy the URL of that video, I would open a new tab, paste that URL into the, you know, the search bar thing, and then I forget what the specific like code or whatever it is, but you would add like view _ comment / watch v equals whatever or something like that, and it would show all the comments for that video, and it would like just show comments, like no video, just the comments by themselves, so I could see all of them at once, and then I would pick out the ones I needed. So I would just do, you know, control print screen. I would paste that image into Microsoft Paint, cut out the comment that I needed, and then save it as a JPEG. And I would always use the same naming convention, where I would, you know, do 01-1, 01-2, where it's like video 1, comment 1, video 1, comment 2. Just keep it organized. But, you know, once I got over how hard it was, or really easy it was to scale the comments down and get them on screen, then it was just a matter of trying to time them at the right place and time, where if I wanted them to be in response to something that he says to counteract his arguments, or it would just be a, you know, a reaction to what was happening. That way, essentially the comments are doing the commentary for you, so you don't need anyone else doing commentary over it. But so yeah, that was the comments, and then I would just repeat that process until it was done, really. And then once I was done with it, I would make sure to, you know, proof watch it, or proofread, proof watch, whatever. I would just watch the whole thing, make sure there weren't any errors, no glitches, or, you know, nothing like that. Then once that was done, I had to get to rendering. Now, at the time, I was still on my old laptop, so I had very limited space to work with when I was editing. So I could only, you know, put a few videos from my iPod onto my laptop at a time, and I would edit those, and then I would render 15-minute segments of the montage as a whole. And then once that was done, I would take those, you know, those segments, put them on my iPod, then I would go on campus and combine them and render them in Adobe Premiere. Now, I don't know squat about Premiere. I still don't know squat about Premiere, but I knew enough to be able to, you know, do the very most basic edits, so I was able to get these in here. Because if you ever notice in montages like this, Sly Cooper and San Andreas, every 15 minutes, for some reason, there's a very short, like, split-second red flash, and I guess that's just how it separates the video. I probably should have done like a fade or something, but whatever. So that was that. I would render it there, and I was still experimenting with the render settings, so I didn't really know what was the best format, the best file type, and all that, codecs and stuff. But I did what I had to do, so I had a rendered video, and then I would upload it to YouTube on campus. And then I just waited. And I was kind of surprised at just how positive the reception was. Like, I think it's my second most viewed montage, I think, next to San Andreas, I think, but it's almost at 200,000 views, I think, and that's kind of impressive considering it was my first, because I wasn't expecting people to like the way I did things. Not there was really much to it, but again, I think that's what people liked about my montages, is that they were very simple. And I was pretty happy with that. So yeah, first montage, pretty good. No complaints. Got lots of comments, got good views, still gets good views. Right, so at this point, I kind of had the basics of what would be a system for now, but it hadn't really evolved just yet. But through experience and just we're taking more time to really figure what I wanted to do with each montage, I made more improvements and then really developed the workflow that I have today. Again, I'm still just skipping through a video real quick, like I'll just click on the timeline and just play a little bit at a time as I go through it, and keep using the audio spikes to indicate where the fails are. And once I got good at it, if I was in an editing session, I could edit like a dozen videos in a few minutes because I would know exactly what I need to use. So with that being said, that's another counter to the argument of, oh, these people sit here and watch the entire playthrough just to get this footage. I'm like, no, I've never watched the entirety of any playthrough that I've made a montage of. Not even Jak 2. And especially not, you know, Breath of the Wild. That was like, what, 46 hours of footage? And I crammed that into roughly an hour and a half-ish, something like that. Trust me, I did not watch all of that footage. I didn't even watch a fraction, like a notable fraction of the footage. So, y'all can calm those tits. Now, obviously I have a lot of videos to use per playthrough, but sometimes I didn't always use every single video. So what I would do is open up Notepad and I would just have a list of any unused videos that I didn't use during a session, and then once I was done with the editing session, I would go back and delete those specific videos that I didn't need to save space. Because again, at that time, I still had the laptop, so I didn't have a lot of room to work with. I had to make good use of every single, you know, gigabyte, megabyte that I had. But, you know, that was then. One thing I kind of probably should have done a long time ago, but I think I always did consistently, was to avoid using any really offensive comments, because, you know, there's always going to be comments saying, oh, Phil, fuck yourself, go kill yourself, go die, yada yada yada, stuff like that. And I didn't want to do anything like that. I wanted these montages, after a point, I wanted them to appeal to both Phil's fans and his critics and casual viewers. Like, I kind of wanted it to be slightly less than neutral, but not all the way to the edge of being a detractor or whatever. And with that being said, as far as comments go, I started lowering the opacity. Is it opacity or opacity? You know, I started making them a bit more transparent. That way you could see the gameplay behind it, so it wouldn't be completely blocking what you're seeing on screen. Because I think I had one or two complaints about that on the earlier montages, but I think it was San Andreas where I first started to lower the opacity on comments. So that was a good move. And then about halfway through, I wanted to do some more humorous things where I would add some random movie sound clips in response to things happening, maybe do some green screens or musical interludes and stuff like that. And I started doing that mainly because I was watching Renegade Operative's montages, and his went really above and beyond what I had seen from other montages at that time. Like if anyone's recently seen the Secret Life of DSP, he did a montage of Tekken 7, and the editing on that one is amazing. Like, it's with a, you know, despite a few things like some typos here and there, I would consider it to be like professional quality edits. But yeah, I wanted to, you know, spice things up a little bit. I understand that some say it would go against my style of being straight to the point and simplistic, where it's just footage, montage, fail, that's it. I just wanted to make it a bit more interesting to look at. That way it wouldn't get boring just from you watching the same thing over and over again. But that's just, you know, my preference. One of my favorite edits that I came up with was the addition of the fails at letters on his watermark. Around a little bit after he started doing direct capture, he had a DSP gaming logo in the bottom left corner of his gameplay videos. And this idea came to mind. It was a last minute addition when I was making Oddworld New and Tasty. What I did was I would trace the I would screen cap apart from a video. I would open that up in a program called Anime Studio. It's like an old animation program, and I would trace the letters using the vector drawing tools, and then I would kind of edit them to make them look like other letters that spelled out fails at, and then I just placed it right next to DSP and lowered the opacity so that it would look about the same, and it would say DSP fails at gaming, and that was the thing. And I had made it like a transparent PNG image. I still have that on Mediafire. I believe I posted like a link to it in the description of Oddworld, but I'll probably post it here too, just in case. But later on, when Phil stopped using that watermark, what I did was go back to Anime Studio, and I traced the original DSP gaming logo in its entirety, like, you know, the letters and the little controller icon. I traced all of that and made a new DSP Fails at Gaming icon and just put that at the bottom left of all my montages from there on. So that was a cool thing. And one of my, like, probably one of the most important helpers in my process is a little something called Handbrake. Oh my god, Handbrake is probably one of the greatest free programs I've discovered since Audacity. I use that to re-encode basically everything nowadays, and it has been a huge help because I am an idiot who doesn't know how to pick a render setting that doesn't make ginormous files. But even if I did find a good one, it would take longer to render, so I always picked one that just made a big file in less time, and then I would send it to Handbrake and let it do its thing and get it down to the right size that I needed, so it wouldn't be too much of a problem. So that made it really easy to transport files and upload them faster. So overall, my workflow just became so much more gooder, better, gooder, great, awesome. I love it. And then another big change that really helped that was the transition from my laptop to my PC. Now, my laptop is a Dell Inspiron 1525. I got it in 2008 as a graduation gift. And, you know, for a laptop, it was okay, but I got over the novelty of having a portable computer really quickly because I didn't do a lot of work outside. I did most of my work from home. So that thing was good for what it needed to do, but for, you know, projects like this, of this scope, it was way too underpowered, just unfit for any kind of heavy duty work. Like, I would always have to set it for high performance. Like, here's a battery setting on the bottom on the taskbar. Like, I had, you know, power saver, balance, and high performance. I always put it on high performance to make it render faster and run better. But even then, it wasn't all that great, because on that laptop, if I was doing something in Vegas, that was the only thing I was doing on that computer. Like, you know, here I have Vegas open to record this thing, and I might have, say, Chrome in the background doing something else. Like, I could do that now. Back then I couldn't do that. If I tried to do that, it would be a disaster. Just to say that. And trying to render all these things on my laptop pretty much killed my battery. I had to order, like, over the course of ordering my laptop, I had to order 2 batteries. And if I didn't use the batteries, I would just plug in the AC adapter. And just, you know, because of that, that really slowed things down. The video was always choppy in the preview window. I had to turn the preview quality down to the draft mode. That way it wouldn't always be all choppy and glitchy looking. And obviously, because I was rendering these things in high definition, the render times were ridiculous. Like, again, at first, I was rendering the 15-minute segments. So at that time, it took maybe 1 to 2 hours to render each segment. Later on, I felt confident in rendering entire montages on my laptop. And when I did, it would take like 7 to 8 hours to render that one video. And it would take another 3 to 4, or maybe 2 to 3, to re-encode it in Handbrake. So that process was way too lengthy for its own good. Like, I would often have a project ready and I would render it. I'd put the laptop on something like a table where it wouldn't, you know, overheat or anything. And I would let it sit there and render while I was either at work or at school. And I would come back and it would either be done or it would be almost done. And that thing was running hot. Like, it was embarrassing, but... Ooh, excuse me. I'm getting all choked up over this. I'm getting emotional. But I remember it was very sluggish when I did Advanced Warfare, because that was my first time doing a project at 60 frames per second. So I was also editing the footage at 60, because I know that if you go to, you know, file properties, you can change the, you know, your project settings and change the frame rate. I could have left it at, you know, 29.97 and then changed it when I was ready to render it, but no, I kept it at 60 when I was editing it. So when I was working on it, the preview video was always so choppy to look at, and I couldn't get an idea of what to, you know, what to do, because it was just so delayed and everything. But it still came out okay in the end, so I'm not complaining. But I'm telling you, last year, when I finally made that switch to PC, like this build that I made myself, it was like night and day. Like, a weight was lifted off of my shoulders. Just, the PC gods just came from the heavens and just dropped a PC tower on my head, and it felt great. I love it. It's just so much faster. Like, the render times for these things now are like 1-to-1, if not shorter than that. Like, maybe an hour to render any montage that I make. And with that being said, Handbrake records them in even less time. And I'm telling you, it's just, I call it not a miracle, but it just felt good. Like, even today, I still feel a bit spoiled by having this kind of power on hand. And if I had known sooner, I could have upgraded to a proper PC instead of having to make myself suffer with underpowered equipment. But You know, those days are gone. This is the new. This is the now. So, and yeah, I have been working on montages on PC since Uncharted 2 onwards. So everything you saw before Uncharted 2, I did on my laptop. So consider that, you know. Good God, we're only like halfway through this thing and I'm running out of notes. Good Lord. How did I ever make these, man? Like really, like looking back, I was just going through my playlist and I've made 21 This Is How You Don't plays over these past 4 years. Where did I find the time? Like, I'm not trying to submit to the whole get a life option, but it's just like, how did I do this? Just so much stuff, and a really interesting variety of games too. Like, let's just go through this thing. Jak and Daxter, my first montage, obviously, as you see here. Not bad. It got the job done. It's still rough in some ways that I wish I could go back and fix. Well, really with a lot of the older montages in general. Like, for example, when you see those comments on screen, they're actually not very high quality. When I screen capped them on the on-campus school computers, the screen was only viewed at like 100%. If I had zoomed in and gotten some higher quality, you know, just bigger lettering and get a bigger picture that I would scale it down, it would probably look better on screen than it does right now. Because I believe when I got to Liberty City Stories, that was when I first started screen capping comments from the mobile YouTube page on my phone. And those comments were way higher quality than these. Other than that, I think this one came out okay. There wasn't really much to it. But again, I think that's what people liked about my montages. Next one was Sly Cooper in the Thievius Raccoonus. Again, not really much about that one either. That was just another platformer that I heard had some antics going on, and I decided to take a look, skim through a couple videos, see what was happening, and I just decided, okay, we'll do Sly Cooper. I remember one part that always stood out that everyone commented on was the part when he's trying to swing on that one hook in the second level, in the city level, always trying to get over that pit of water, and he just couldn't do it for some reason. I had no idea what was up with that part, because when I went back and played Sly Cooper, the HD version of course on PS3, when I played it myself and I got to that part, I managed to get that hook easily on my first try, no problem. I can't imagine why it took so long for him to do it. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's Phil for you. Next was God of War. That was the first time I did a montage when he was using direct capture. I think he started direct capture with MGS4, because halfway through that playthrough, he went from, you know, the camcorder to direct capture, so it was good. I guess he was going through a transition period where he went from the classic to the current streaming process. And I think that was when he was on Twitch the first time. Yeah. God of War, that was a good one. Again, nothing really. That's the thing. Like, I'm gonna keep repeating myself here, but a lot of my early montages were pretty straightforward. And I know that's what people want from me, and I will continue to do that for sure. Just, I think at that time, I felt it was getting a bit stale. But, whatever. So now we moved on to Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. That one is a popular one. That's probably one of my favorites. that was probably the first really big project, because unlike Jak and Daxter, like Cooper and God of War, San Andreas, I think, still has the most amount of separate parts of any playthrough that I've made a montage for. That playthrough had 181 parts to it. Yeah, it was that long. And again, these were all 10-minute segments, but it was still that many parts. So just imagine you want to see a playthrough of San Andreas and you find, oh, here's something from Dark Side Phil. Oh, it's 181 videos pass, you know? Because it's not like there's that many missions, it's just that he spent that long on the game as a whole. Yeah, that was a long one. It went, that was like over 2 hours, I think. And I really enjoyed making the fucking stupid montage at the end of the video. I know a lot of people like that one too. That was, again, that was another last minute addition that just came to mind one day. A lot of these ideas happen in the shower. I guess it's just that thing where whenever you're taking a shower, all of your ideas just, your brain is, I don't know, you summon your inner Renaissance master and you come up with ideas for art, music, videos, whatever. Just everything becomes so clear. And so I made a separate video track for every time he said fucking stupid, and then I would keep those all together, and then I placed them at the end of the montage, and people just thought it was hilarious. So I'm glad people like that. I enjoy making it. Then we get on to Ratchet and Clank. Ooh, that was a good one. I have no idea why he was so compelled to play the whole game like 99% with the wrench, when the game is literally all about using weapons. Now, of course, the weapons in the first Ratchet and Clank game aren't the best. Personally, I prefer going commando because I think that's when the gunplay got better. But even then, at that time, you could still do good stuff with those weapons, but for whatever reason, you just didn't want to do it. And just were the usual antics that happened. Then we get to Uncharted. That was alright. I think that was kind of short too. It was like only an hour and something. Pretty short. I believe that was the first time I did a death counter. I'm not sure why I decided to do it. I think I might have been watching a playthrough of Dark Souls or something at the time, but that was something that I would end up doing not too often, but I do it occasionally. Now, oh man, this next one, oh my god, Final Fantasy X. In my opinion, in terms of commentary, that has to be one of his all-time worst. I don't know if he was drunk or high or whatever. He just turned the obnoxious dial all the way to 11 and then drew a +5 on it. Like, he just would not shut up, just making the most juvenile, vile, random, not even jokes. He was just saying things and just laughing like a hyena, like laughing at his own jokes at that. Like, I almost wish I could laugh at my own jokes. I don't even make good jokes, but if I did, I probably still wouldn't laugh at them. I don't know. Like, humor is subjective, I know, but this guy, and on top of all that, he would just grind through the game, and oh, I did some off-screen grinding. No, I'm not over-leveled. Like, the guy, he unlocked Lulu's, like, Thera, Watera, Thundara, and Blizzara when he was still at Kilika. Like, come on, dude. You're over-leveled. Get real. Whatever. And then, oh yeah, about those montages, Ratchet and Clank, Uncharted, and Final Fantasy X. I wanted to give a shout out to Renegade Operative, who actually uploaded those on his channel, because at that time I was under a copyright strike. Not because of anything DSP related, but I had uploaded an episode of an anime that I had on Google Video. Remember that? Google Video? I had that, and they wanted me to put it on YouTube. I'm like, okay, I'll put it there. And it was there for like a couple years, and then Bandai was like, nope, get it out of there. And they got me a straight up copyright strike. Not, you know, a claim or a third party, whatever. No, an actual strike against my channel. So at that time, I couldn't do anything more than 15 minutes. So that's why, even though Final Fantasy X was going to be a 2-part montage anyway, part 2 was split apart into 15-minute segments, so I had to upload like that. But again, a huge thanks to Renegade for uploading those montages for me during that time, and I later put them back on my channel earlier this year, so that was a pretty big deal. Then we move on to Drakengard 3, which wasn't really all that great of a montage looking back. I just heard that, well, I heard from, I think it was Dragon Killer or someone, that, you know, the game had very crude humor, and it's kind of ironic that even though you would think that would be right up his alley, he looked at it as being in bad taste and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, look in the mirror, assuming you own one. You're like, come on. And, you know, what's going on about the frame rate and laggy jumps and all kinds of stuff. And he, you know, he rage quit the game. So, speaks for itself. I don't think I had a lot of montages that had rage quits. I think... No, I think... Yeah, Drakengard 3 was the only montage I had where he rage quit the game in question. Oh wait, no. Oh, I take that back. I'll take that back. Hold that thought. So, after Drakengard 3, we're moving on to Oddworld, which was one of my favorites to work on, because I think that's the one where I pretty much blew my creative load all over it, because that was the one where I just went nuts and did all kinds of fun, crazy edits. I had a death counter on that, which was apparently incorrect because I had missed some deaths, but it was still a lot of deaths in that playthrough. But man, I just had so much fun thinking of, okay, what could I put here? What could I do with this? What could I do with that? Like, I really enjoyed doing that that William Tell Overture section when he was riding on the Elam. I like doing that. That was really a fun idea. And again, I'm telling you, man, if you ever need an idea for something, just take a shower. Just, you know, you come home from work, you're tired, just take a shower, and everything will come to you. It's crazy. I love it. But yeah, that montage was so much fun to work on. I love it. And then we move on to a very, very big montage. Jak 2. The successor to this montage. I knew that this playthrough was going to be a disaster. Now, Jak 2 may be my least favorite of the Jak franchise, the trilogy, but I still like the game. But I also know that there are certain sections of the game that people have been known to, you know, have problems with. Like the arrow race, what else was there? You know, just certain missions in general are very, you know, notably difficult. So I actually tuned into his live streams for that playthrough, and just seeing it happen live in real time, I was just like, oh my god, you gotta be kidding me. Also, I think this was the first time where I was working on my montage and keeping pace with his video uploads, because as soon as he uploaded any video and it went to 720p, I snatched it right up and put it in Vegas and started editing. And then I'll just wait for the next stream, get the new footage, and go from there. Yeah, I think that is my second longest montage. It's a little over 3 hours. And I remember I got comments from people saying, like, Chaff, why is it so long? And it's just like, I wish it could be shorter. Again, I try to keep these montages as short as possible while still putting in all the necessary footage that it needs. So, the montage is 3 hours, but it had to be 3 hours. I couldn't make it any less than that, while still keeping in all of the deaths and all the fails. That's the point. And I also know that I got a few comments telling me that they didn't like my little speech during the arrow race where I sped up the footage and talked over it. Yeah, looking back on that, I know, it was kind of dumb. I know no one wants to hear me ramble over a montage, and yet here I am doing this. But, you know, in an actual regular montage, I know no one wants to hear that kind of stuff. I just felt that I had to say something about it because at that time I was just so into it. I was such a full-time distractor that seeing him play the game this badly and blaming the game as much as he did, I had to speak out. I had to say something, you know? But don't worry, for future, you know, montages I didn't do that anymore. So, but yeah. Jak 2, gameplay-wise, is probably one of his worst. Like, along with Final Fantasy X being bad for commentary. So that's that. SSX was the other playthrough where he rage quit at the end. That was pretty fun to do. It was short, like it wasn't even an hour long. It was about 55 minutes, I think. And, you know, it had enough comments, enough footage, but it just got cut short because it was a short playthrough. So, nothing I can do about that. So we move on to Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. This one was a big change for me because it was the first and I think, well, only time that I ever worked with 60 frames per second footage. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it was a real hassle to work with that footage on my laptop because of the frame rate. Because it's tough to play that kind of videos on my laptop because it's just so underpowered. It's so bad, but I think the end result was worth it. It looked good. I mean, it played smoothly, so the usual stuff. Yeah, that's a good one. Then we move on to Dying Light. Nothing too crazy about that one, though there is one thing in particular that really stood out to me when I was working on it. Because again, when, like, after Oddworld, I would always keep an eye out for things I might want to add, like movie clips and stuff like that, as a reaction to his gameplay. So, there's a part early in that montage where you see him climbing a radio tower, and then he falls through it somehow, and it makes that, you know, like old cartoon sound effects. I found that sound effect on the, like, on-disc files of Croc Legend of the Gobos on PS1. I ripped the audio from that disc and I had to go through all the files just to find that one sound sample because I knew I needed that exact one, and I took all that time just to get it, and you know what, it was worth it. I love it. So yeah, that was a fun one to work on. Let's see, what's next? Skyward Sword. I believe that is the longest montage altogether because that one is, because it was 2 parts and I think it ended up being like 3.5 hours, a little more than that, I think. Now, obviously, I know nothing about Nintendo games in general because I'm more of a, you know, Sony kind of guy, but I really liked working on that one because even though I didn't know the game, just by watching and seeing what was happening, I could kind of get an idea of what he might have been doing wrong, and I managed to get enough comments to, you know, reflect, oh, he's doing this wrong, or he's doing that wrong, and so on and so forth. Also, that one rant when he's in that, not the, is it the Laneru Mines, I think? You know, that weird place with the robots and stuff. That whole thing where he didn't know how to kill the, what's it called? Oh my god, that turret thing. Oh god, I forgot. But you know the one. But he spent so much time on that. He went on such a huge rant criticizing Nintendo, saying that they've fallen from grace and all kinds of stuff. And then a few minutes after that rant, there's a bit where he defeats that enemy and it's just like, oh, that's it? Okay, sure. Like, without an ounce of humility or any kind of, oh, I was wrong, oh man, I shouldn't have said all that stuff. It's just like, oh, okay, sure, you know? It's stuff like that. It's just the whole, it's not my fault, it's never my fault, all that stuff. It's always got to me. Admittedly, I didn't really have much of a plan for Crash Bandicoot. It was, like, other than the fact that I knew that the game would be kind of tough for him because, you know, the first Crash game is a little bit archaic in some ways, and I knew that would lead to some hilarious moments. Other than that, I was just honestly kind of just bandwagoning, like, okay, new playthrough, okay, I'll do a montage, sure, why not? That's about it, nothing special. Now, MGS4, I did that one because, for one thing, I kind of wanted to finish, you know, what AJ had started with the first montages. And I think someone had did MGS4 once before, but it wasn't a full, complete montage. It was just like a few minutes, like maybe 10 minutes long. So I went through, did the whole thing, and I think that one turned out pretty good. Now, GTA Liberty City Stories, that one I was looking forward to, because I used to own the game on PSP, I played it, I beat it a few times. That's a good game. And I knew there were going to be some missions in there that would really annoy him, but I was not expecting all those, you know, poorly made moments and all that stuff. I was not expecting it to be that full of rage, and I really enjoy how that one came out. And again, it was a very basic montage. I didn't really go over the top with any edits or anything. Just kind of played it straight like usual. So I'm happy with that one. Uncharted 2. Uncharted 2 was one that I actually meant to do a long time ago, and I had started it at one point, but I never finished it. I just completely canceled it, deleted all the footage. I don't know why. I guess I probably thought I couldn't do anything with it or something. I don't know. That was a long time ago. But I went back and I did it, and that was the first one that I made on this PC, and that one was pretty good. Killzone 3 was going to be a combined montage of Killzone 2 and 3, but there honestly wasn't really anything worth using in Killzone 2. Like, that playthrough was only like 20 something parts, I think, and also he kind of quit halfway through. It wasn't even a rage quit, he just quit. Like, it didn't say anything in the title, there was no video about it, it's just like, there's one part of the game, and it's just over instantly. Same thing with Xenoblade Chronicles, there's no warning, it just happened. So that was it. But I had fun doing the Killzone 3 montage, because I did half of it as the single player campaign, and then the second half was the multiplayer, which I had never seen before, so that was pretty interesting to see. And then we get to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That one was a challenge. Well, in some ways it was the easiest because in the end there wasn't much that I ended up using, but it was hard because there was so much footage that I had to go through. And this montage is exactly why I used that method of looking for spikes in the audio track, because that playthrough had so much dead air in it that it might as well have been just the montage itself. Like, I could probably safely say that my montage had some of the more interesting moments that happened during that playthrough, because most of it is just him looking for shrines, finding all the, he's just walking around looking for stuff. There wasn't really anything happening, and he really could not. It's just a game like that does not lend itself to live commentary if the LP has nothing going on or nothing to add. And the fact that the game often has areas with no music, it's just this really awkward dead silence that makes it just really unfun and unenjoyable to watch. So I'm glad I was able to at least try to make it interesting in a short 1.5 hour format. And then we get to Driver San Francisco. I started that one almost immediately after I finished Breath of the Wild. The reason why I started doing that one was because I had suddenly remembered one of those bugged mechanics videos. It was for a racing segment where you have to just use a super high-powered car, and he spent like 15 or 20 minutes on that one race, and that just completely blew my mind. And that one part did end up being a significant portion of the montage itself. It was still pretty good montage. I felt good about that one. But yeah, that's my most recent one. So I've up to 21 in total. And that's really it. And again, like looking back, overall, I had fun making them. Yes, they took a long time to make, but over time, as I continued to build my workflow and adjust and learn new editing skills and techniques, it really made the process like genuinely fun. Like when you come up with an idea and you really want to get it into action, and you're just sitting there, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that and that, and you've got a plan in order. That's what makes making these fun. Coming up with all these edits and everything. And also, I really hope people enjoyed them. I mean, obviously, without, the massive view counts on some of these things, I would imagine people did enjoy them. But mostly, I just hope that everyone enjoyed them, whether you're a fan of Phil, you're a critic of his, or you're just some casual viewer who just happened to learn about DSP recently and just happened to find one of my montages. If you enjoyed them, good. I'm glad you did. And again, like, I think Jak and Daxter is already, or it's close to 200,000 views. And then San Andreas, I believe, is the next most popular video right under AJ's montages. So I'm kind of surprised that they've gotten so big. So thanks. And most importantly, it's been a huge learning experience. I've become way more comfortable with editing. At this point, opening Sony Vegas and getting started on a project is as simple as just, okay, I already know what I'm gonna do. I already know, what features I need to use, what effects, filters, all that stuff, transitions, things like that. And I would, apply those skills to other personal projects, like my own Let's Plays and commentaries and such. And often whenever I would get comments from people who had never heard of DSP, I would just tell them, hey, this guy is DSP Gaming, he played the game, go check it out if you want. And I want to let the viewers decide if he's worth watching. I'm not going to just say, oh yeah, that guy's awful, don't watch him. Like, no, watch it, see for yourself, find out the hard way, like I did. And one thing I really wanted to get out of the way is that I honestly never really considered these montages to be, an indication of the quality of the entire LP as a whole. Because you have to keep in mind, these are only like an hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, but the playthrough as a whole could be upwards of, 10 or more. So it's not really accurate. But I don't want people to assume that just because you're seeing an hour and a half of fails, that doesn't mean that the entire playthrough is like that. because it's not. If you want a more accurate description, these fails do make up a decent portion of it, but the rest is, I would say, average, maybe even below average. I always thought his gameplay wasn't that great. His commentary on the fly is, I don't know, it's very hit or miss, like I said before. But decide for yourself. If you want to watch his videos, go ahead. I can't stop you, obviously. And as for how this has affected my channel, obviously these things are getting way more views on my channel than anything else that I put out. Like, I haven't got views on anything like this since I did my playthrough of Black on the PS2. I think that still has my most views, like 400 something thousand on the last part of it, which is like really big to me, but that's about as big as it gets. And because of that, I don't really see a lot of views gravitating towards my other videos, not views, videos. And I'll be honest, it's a bit discouraging, but that's understandable. I know that when you discover a channel that does a certain thing, and you subscribe to them for that thing, you want to see them upload more of that thing. And if they do a different thing, it's like, well, why would I watch this? I came here for A, not B. But this content creator keeps putting out B, so I don't want to watch that. I want to see more of A. And again, I understand. It is what it is. You don't have to watch anything besides this. Like, if you come to my channel just to watch my This Is How You Don't plays, that is A-okay. I mean, if you like it, you like it. Watch what you want to watch. It's up to you. So with that being said, I am reaching the end of making montages. I'm still holding out for Jak 3. Like, sooner or later, assuming Phil still owns the Jak and Daxter collection, he's gonna have to do it eventually. And when he does, I will be there to make the montage for it. And that is going to be my final montage. For real this time. I know I said, oh, I'm gonna be done after San Andreas, or I'll be done after Skyward Sword, or I'll be done after MGS4. But like, no. I want to finish this original trilogy of This Is How You Don't plays, and then once that's done, that's gonna be the last one. This time, I mean it, for real. Because I'm already kind of hopped off the anti-DSP train as it is. It's kind of lost its steam at this point. I might have an occasional laugh whenever Dragon Killer puts out a tweet talking about some of the dumb stuff he says, but you have a laugh and then you move on. That's about it. So I just kind of want to move away from this and focus on original stuff like music, my own playthroughs, maybe some animations, I don't know, stuff like that. And I never expected there to be an entire community of people who got together just for the sake of poking fun at a Let's Player. And I was never really all that close to the SOK, to be honest. Like, I guess they kind of considered me a member, but not really. Like, I was just sort of a guy on the sidelines who kind of did stuff every now and then. Like, I was the guy who made montages, and they would do lesson doors and all that stuff, but I was never really that deep into the community itself. But despite that, I'm so glad that I've made friends with people through that, because, you could easily make friends through any other interest or disinterest. This just happens to be one of the latter. There's nothing wrong with making friends because you hate something or dislike something. Just have to make sure that you find other things to talk about besides that. And I think that's, what people looked at in the anti-DSP community and just assumed that, oh, that's literally all they do. No, there's more to it than that. That's the thing. It never should have gotten this deep. It never should have gotten all this personal. We could have just maybe come together every now and then, have a laugh, and just look at this guy from a distance as a cautionary tale on Let's Plays. But you know, after everything that's happened, like, I can't even go back and watch Let's Endures anymore because, you know, they're having all these laughs and cracking all these jokes, but everything that happened behind the scenes and beneath the surface, it's just like, oh my god, how could this, you know, even be happening, you know? But at this point, I've made peace with that. The people who have, you know, come out and made proper apologies have already, you know, got that off their chest, and everything is more or less back to normal. So, you know, we're still waiting on a proper response from Fred. Whenever he decides to crawl up from underneath that rock, we'll handle that business. But, you know, you can't keep living life as a lie, okay? That's not a life worth living, you know? Life is beautiful, Fred. You gotta, you know, live that kind of life. But overall, I really wanted to just say, I don't know. It's been fun. It's been fun. It's been a really fun, dumb experience just making these montages and just giving people a bite-sized version of what you would see from Darksideville, and now I'm just rambling about nothing. So I'm not gonna really, you know, close this stupid notepad document and just speak from the heart for a moment. If I could find the right words for it. I don't know. It's... really not much to say.
I pressed it twice. Come on. She's so frustrating.
How's it frustrating? It's just a game. Calm down. You know.
I'm pressed. Look.
Like at the end of the day, I honestly wish him the best. Like, I know it seems that I would want him to go broke and go hungry and lose his job and all that stuff, but I don't think anyone in their right mind actually wants that for him. Even though it might seem like it whenever we get upset at him and stuff, but really, I think all anyone really wants from him is for him to just, you know, admit when he's wrong. Just take responsibility for his own mistakes. Don't always blame the game. Don't always get upset and blame the developers and act like they're the ones at fault when he's the one with the controller. I don't understand why that's always been his thing. It's always a game bug. It's always lag. It's always Bluetooth. It's always something. It's never his fault. I think, you know, if he would just come out and say, okay, that was me. I messed up. That will be fine. And sometimes he does do that, but it doesn't happen enough to the point where it feels like a genuine apology of sorts, I guess. You know, and where he is right now with Patreon and all of that. First of all, if I had a Patreon campaign and I was making that kind of money, I would be like worshiping the ground that my patrons stand on, because to get that kind of money per month is like a blessing and then some. And obviously he is thankful for it. It's allowed him to continue to live where he is in Washington, but I don't think he realizes just how much of a difference that has made for him. Because obviously, if he didn't have Patreon, he would be screwed. Like, completely. Because obviously, he wasn't making enough on YouTube when he first adopted Patreon. I think he had already left Twitch the first time when he had first started the campaign. So at that point, YouTube wasn't enough. And now, even with Patreon and his return to Twitch, which supposedly has been doing better than it was last time, that's still not enough sometimes. It's not enough for him to be able to pay all his bills at once. It's not enough for him to be able to get all the new games that he wants to get. And when you combine that with some of his spending habits and just some things he really doesn't need, he's kind of bringing that on himself. Like, I don't know if he still has those 2 business class internet plans, or if he even has 2 to begin with. Like, why would you need 2 of those? You don't need that. I mean, I don't even know if he's streaming and uploading at the same time, but you don't have to be a genius to know that you don't need like the best possible internet connection to do that. And on top of that, you don't really need an amazing internet connection for streaming. Like, I've done a few streams and I have like the most basic Comcast package, and for what it's worth, it did okay. I could do 720p. I think I could do 60 frames per second. Yeah, I could. But one thing I might have to address in the future is that apparently the reason why I always had lag was because I had the Twitch channel open when I was streaming at the same time, and that probably led to some issues. So I think Phil might be doing that as well, and that might be causing him some problems. So if he were to just close the dashboard and just have the, you know, the Twitch chat open, it might help have better, you know, better connection. I also don't know if he's still using that same PC that he bought, the one that couldn't run Battlefield Hardline, but even so, I just think that a lot of his decisions are causing his financial issues. But that's really it. I don't really care all that much about him at this point. I might, again, if I see a tweet from someone like Dragon Killer or text, I might be like, oh, Phil's doing some crazy stuff again. Haha, that's funny. Alright, back to watching 2 best friends play, you know? Going with my business as usual. And that's really it. I just want to move on to other stuff. So that's really the main point of this retrospective. Need filler commentary. Can't think on the fly. Not experienced enough. Is that it? I think that's it. I think I'm done. Alright. Goodbye. Until next time.